This video I just wanted to quickly go through general maintenance on the Stingray. Tools you can use in general maintenance: a 1.5mm nut driver, ball link tool, sort of medium Phillips screwdriver, 2.5mm driver, and a 1.5mm driver. You should be able to do almost everything on this model for maintenance with these tools. Things you tend to want to check: first, of course, just check all your bolts. After you've flown a little bit, you know, anything could be loose, or maybe you even missed it during a build. Just check it, make sure nothing is coming loose. It's always good to check that on a model. Belts. The belts should just work, but you always want to check, make sure they're still on the proper side of the idler. Make sure these idler screws are tight so the idler's not walking on you. Make sure your pulleys haven't come loose on the shaft so they don't have any vertical play. That's about it on the pulleys. Check for any fraying. There shouldn't be any fraying if everything's riding where it's supposed to be. Noises: when you fly it, you start to hear noises in the air, like odd squeaking sounds. That's usually a bearing. You may have gotten a bearing either that was bad initially, or something isn't riding correctly. It's not common. They usually just work. But if they do, look for a bearing. Often a higher squealing sound may come from one of the four drive shaft bearings. It's fairly easy to change those simply by loosening the set screws on the pulleys, pulling the pulleys out, and then pulling the drive shaft out, popping the bearing out, popping a new one in, putting it all back together. It's a quick thing, but that's usually where kind of a squeaking sound comes from. It comes from one of the bearings. It's about it on the bottom side of the model. On the top side of the model, you can do this before you fly, but definitely after some flying, check it too. All the grips have just a little bit of in-out play. That's normal. You just want to make sure none of them have excessive play. If you find any one that has excessive in and out play, you just want to pull the blade off using a 2.5mm wrench. Just pull the bolt out, take the blade out. Then use your nut driver, because there's a 5.5mm lock nut in there. Just tighten the lock nut down again until the grip doesn't have play. Put the blade back on and you're done. So just a general maintenance check. Again, check all your bolts, little screws, make sure they're all fine. That's about it on the outside of the model. Of course, you need to check your motor bolts. Just make sure they were tightened down right originally, and make sure they haven't changed. Generally, the model doesn't shake enough. Stuff doesn't tend to come loose, but it's good to check it. Internally, make sure none of your wires are getting frayed. Just sort of double check everything. Make sure everything's still is tied down well, so nothing's moved around. Make sure your wires are away from your motor, not chafing on any corners or not hitting the motor itself. That's about it on the model. Generally, these things just fly and fly and fly with no maintenance at all. But every once in a while you run into something. Those are the kind of things you want to check. That's about it. Other than that, the model should just fly. Next thing is possibly maybe dealing with crash repair. We'll cover that in another video.